What's up, everyone? So I'm here today to talk about a very serious issue, actually. Not just a concept or not just something that we should consider, but I think that it's a very pressing issue, and I'm going to explain how I even arrived at this point, and then I'm going to just weave it together to show you guys like I'm trying to package it all, I guess, in a way. So for starters, I was watching the show Jane the Virgin, and from there, I got interested in Raphael, Raphael's character, who I believe was also an ENFJ, like me in the show. And yeah, I liked his character, and I liked a lot of the other characters as well. The whole show is just great. But then I started to look more into the actors like Gina and them, and then I looked into Raphael's character, the person who acts as him, and honestly I expected him to be like this, I don't know, like the way that he looks, like you'd expect him to be this really, I guess, like not arrogant, but like he just knows he's the ish kind of person, but he's actually even more of a stand-up guy than his character in the show. And once again, I think that he continues to even further validate his type, even in real life, which is interesting to me. But I was watching a lot of his stuff, and I came across not only his TED Talk, which was amazing, it was beautiful, but also I came across his site, We Are Man Enough. And on this site, he discusses a lot of different topics having to do with masculinity and trying to redefine masculinity and pretty much trying to find proper masculinity while getting rid of the toxic masculinity that we have today in our modern society. Now, I've already made a video on masculinity and redefining masculinity with my friend Jeremiah, but I kind of wanted to expand on that a little bit with this video and even go a different direction, even because, like I said, there's a pressing issue at my heart. And from watching those videos, which, by the way, I highly recommend you guys watch them, especially the one, the video, like I think there's about like 4 or 5, and there's an hour-long one called #MeToo. And you can already guess where that's going, but it's literally these men, including Justin Baldoni, the guy who plays as Raphael in Jane the Virgin, and they're sitting down, they're discussing what it means to be a man, and they're discussing sexual assault, and they're discussing like their views on all of these different things in society, and they're talking to other women, especially in this video, and a lot of perspectives were really brought out. So that's one of the things that I'm going to be referencing throughout this video. Another thing that I'm going to be referencing throughout this video is every once in a while I sit down and I watch this show called The Real with Jamila. And I won't say, like it's my favorite show ever, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, I do enjoy some of the topics that they bring up. And it's interesting to hear, things from a female perspective. I think that a lot of times we have to hear a lot of things from a female perspective in order to get a good perspective of the world, if you're a male, that is. And then if you're female, it's good to hear things from a male perspective because, once again, my whole channel is all about just helping us understand each other so that we can find a middle ground, so we can find a good compromise. So from watching these shows, The Real, which features Adrienne Bailon and Lonnie Love, Jeannie Mai, and Tamara Mori, it's a really dynamic group, and they're discussing all of these topics. And one of the most interesting topics that was brought up was one that I was watching yesterday with Jamila, and it was a tweet that went out saying, like, ladies, if men had a curfew of 9 p.m. every day, like if there was now a new set curfew for men to be home and not able to go out after 9 p.m., then what would you do? Being the, I guess, ignorant guy that I was, and also not really having like that much time to really think about it, I just thought that, I was just thinking stuff like, I wonder if this is like kind of like pushing towards like, oh, like, so then would ladies, now try to like have dates sooner, or would they like, would they try to just press everything like before? That's what I was thinking that the thing was going on to, kind of like, like I don't know. I just had this random thought about like are women maybe like more upset now that like, oh, now we can't spend the whole night together, so we have to like do things like more quickly. But it took a whole different turn when they started reading the responses, and I'm laughing right now, but it's actually not funny. Many women started responding stuff like, "Oh, I would feel so safe being able to go to the gas station at night and not have to look over my shoulder or check in the back of my car for a guy." And I was just like, whoa. And like, a lot of these responses were women talking about how much safer they would feel, and that was really saddening for me. It was deeply depressing for me. Just the day before, me, Cameron, Bethany, and Jamila, we were out to eat, and we were discussing, rape culture. And I'm not going to get too much into that in this conversation, but we were discussing like, stuff like, does it exist? Does it not exist? Where does this all come from? Men being on thin ice. Are men conditioned with all of this? And so as we're discussing all of this, just many different things, having, two ISFP females and then two ENFJ males there. And like a lot of us, like a lot of what we were just like talking about and like bringing to the surface and having this gentle but kind of like passionate discussion while also trying to better understand where everyone was coming from, it just brought up a lot of different thoughts that I've been mulling over. And so all of these things started to come together at the right time for this video, because the last addition to it is that I've been watching also, I just recently finished watching the Bundy tapes, the Bundy documentaries, because I didn't understand, how people could become so treacherous, how stuff with people like Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy and, the Bay River murderer, whatever his name was, like all of these different like kidnappers, because I started watching like Inside the Criminal Mind documentary on Netflix as well, and I finished that, and it was just like all of these crazy things, and so looking into all of that and just bring all of this together, I've been really thinking very heavily about how much men just suck. And I want to expand on that, because men don't really suck. Boys do, if we want to say it like that. Because then you could say, well, a man is one who's sophisticated in the way that they think and they're actually mature, and, the boys are the ones who are actually causing this. But even then, that's still like a, you know what I mean? Like, I think that I just wanted to shed some thoughts onto just this whole topic in general. So now that I've laid the platform, let's just hop right into it. Growing up, I got along and connected more with women, which seems more taboo. But to be honest, I realized that they're just more vulnerable. And when I say vulnerable, I don't mean necessarily in the sense of like, oh, I can dominate them and take advantage of them with my alpha male ego kind of stance, but more so, I'm somebody who's deeply in tune with emotions, with expressiveness. Like the stereotypical male is not as in tune in this way. They're usually more detached. They're usually more removed. My whole life, I've always been like more in tune with my feelings and my emotions, and being able to express them, kind of like how I do on this channel, and having like a empathetic side, and not being afraid of that, especially as an ENFJ. And so it's kind of like, and NFJ males are uncommon, which me and David, we made a video about this one time, and we talked a little bit about the hardships over there as well. But yeah, being an ENFJ male, you're like, I've just always had that kind of like relationship with women, and I understand that this is often seen as taboo, which is quite saddening for me, because it's like, well, when I was friends with these women, I didn't really have like any ulterior motives. I just connected better with them, and this wasn't to say that I didn't like guys and I didn't connect as much with them, but I guess because of their the stereotypical guy, or the more average and more common guy, because of how detached they are, how closed off that they could be, then there was less of a connection that would be able to last, or that would be able to dive and develop more. I was only able to have this with like certain guys, such as like my friend Nick, who also happens to be ISFP. And then David, of course, who's an INFJ, and then I've met a couple more guys, over the years, such as like Cameron now, and I have John Jaber, just other guys now who I've been really like getting acquainted with, but it wasn't always like that, and I was more in tune with women, and even now, like most of my clients for life coaching are women. In fact, I would say 90% of them are women. And it's just, I guess, energy that I attract, or for the fact that maybe men aren't as into such things, or they don't like to be coached by another male because of their ego. I don't know. But that's not the point of the conversation. Being more in tune with women and everything and being able to talk to them more, I'd like to say, or at least think, that I've been able to understand their side of the spectrum a lot. Like even as a male, I've been able to sit down and talk to so many different women, just as a friend, and just listen, and a lot of them, that's what they complain about males about. Like, males don't want to listen to them. They just automatically want to just shut the thing down, whatever they're saying. They don't really value what the woman has to say. But for me, I never really had that problem. I loved being able to sit down and ask women questions about their experiences and just listen to them. And I think that helped me a lot with especially this topic, being able to understand both sides. And I want to preface this by saying I don't have a preference for one side. I'm not choosing a side, because I think that both sides are flawed in a way. But what I'm here to do today is kind of like just bring like more clarity and explain more thoughts behind what I've gathered, and present more dots for us to be able to connect and to be able to discuss and just deepen this conversation, so that we can see, okay, what can we do now moving forward to be able to fix this crucial and very putrid issue that we have in our society. We have toxic masculinity out there nowadays, and men don't want to talk about their feelings. I'm reading a book called His Needs, Her Needs, and it was talking about like how most of the guys, like it's a psychologist and a counselor who's talking to married couples and stuff, and he's saying like most guys that he talks to, like they'll say like, oh well, my wife knows I'm not the affectionate type. They're only affectionate when they want sex. And to me that was very sad, that was very surprising, and because I can honestly say, like, for me, I'm not like that, and I talk to other guys, and they admit like, oh dang, that really is the way. And I'm not saying that I'm better or anything, but it's just like, oh wow, that's interesting. And I even talked to Jamila about it. We asked questions, and it's like, like me, I'm naturally affectionate. I'm naturally expressive. If I'm showing affection, 95% of the time, it's not trying to lead towards sex. 95% of the time, I'm okay with just being affectionate toward her, and it not being going in that direction, because that's just how I am. I show affection toward people who are not her, and not in an inappropriate way, but I'm just an expressive, affectionate person, and so for me, when I hear things like men who don't even show affection to their own wives, unless if they're wanting sex, and like that's kind of like disheartening, because especially since they don't like to sit down and like talk about their feelings and everything. And I just want us to really, I want to join Justin Baldoni in this excursion on being able to redefine what masculinity is, to be able to present a better example of what that is, as I'm even continuing to discover it, because I feel like in doing this, that'll also help counter a lot of the issues that are going to be brought up throughout this video, such as what rape culture really is, and things such as like consent. Like, what is consent? A big issue that we have now in our society is that people don't know what consent is, either due to ignorance or because they don't care to know about what consent is. And there's a lot of stories that could go on with that, but then there's also another flip side to the coin, where now things that we're supposed to really like consent to are going up a little bit higher. And in my opinion, don't take this wrong or don't misconstrue what I'm saying, but it also seems like there are a lot of victims who are dragging this a little bit too far, and then it's creating like kind of like the whole Black Lives Matter thing, for example, where it was originally supposed to be one thing, but now it's actually like it has actually become something a lot more crucial, a lot more something that's more easily able to defeat, or something that's more easily able to be teased, if you will. We make up society, and the better health our minds are, the better health our character is, the better health our integrity is, the better society will be as a whole. And so I believe that when we are trying to redefine what masculinity is and to live up to that, that'll abolish and eliminate a lot of the negative things that occur in society, especially the ones where men, just as a collective general whole, are being accused of several different heinous acts, both rightfully and falsely. I think that if we all looked within ourselves and we tried to be honest with ourselves, and we all worked toward having better character, better integrity, then we wouldn't have people who are falsely accusing other people. And then we wouldn't also have to worry about knowing, okay, is this woman telling the truth or not? But then, of course, most and foremost, we wouldn't have men who are doing these crazy things. And of course, there are a number of women doing it too, but we have, like, I give it to y'all that it is mostly men who are doing this problem, and that's a problem in of itself. So we really need to focus on redefining what this term is, and I think that if we can redefine what masculinity is and help bring awareness to this issue, but then also help us to be able to understand where our responsibilities are and how to take ownership of those responsibilities, and we're all each individually taking ownership of our individual responsibility and doing the best that we can, society as a whole will just operate so much better. I think that it's very sad because when I was watching the real video where they were talking about the 9 p.m. curfew and everything, I agreed a lot with what Lonnie was saying, and I know that she probably upset a lot of people. I know that she upset a few of my friends. But I also could totally see where, and I wasn't choosing a side, I could totally see where Jeannie was coming from as well. And they both, Lonnie grew up in Detroit, and then Jeannie grew up in, I forgot where she said that she grew up in. But, they both experienced these things. And then, granted, Lonnie is an aggressive ESTP. She's a bigger woman and everything. And then Jeannie's, she's smaller, and she's most likely an ENFP. Not that ENFPs can't be aggressive, but, she's more of, I guess, if a bad man was supposed to target a woman, then she would happen to, kind of like be that, or she would have to be like more on guard. So, and you guys have to go watch the video to go see what I'm talking about. It's a very interesting discussion. But either way, it was just very sad, and I don't usually agree with Adrian. Or I don't usually, I don't really prefer her. She's a little bit too energetic for me, and she speaks very loud, and she's fast, and she likes to interrupt a lot. That's just me. I'm not saying that she's a bad person or anything. I just don't usually prefer her. However, in this video, I was really resonating a lot with what she was saying, both in the part 1 and part 2, where it's like, it really sucks. It sucks. It made me so sad watching this, guys, that we really influence people in this way. Like we make women afraid. We make women petrified to go out and do anything at night. And it's like they're not looking over their shoulder for a man, or even for me. If I'm out at night and I'm walking or whatever, I'm afraid of animals. Like I'm not trying to run. I live in Virginia, Lynchburg, and I'm not trying to run into. Although I'm fascinated by coyotes and bucks and all of that, I'm not trying to run into any of y'all. Like, so if it's past 9 p.m. and it's dark and I'm out walking by myself and stuff, that's what I'm looking out for. But women, they're not even afraid of like animals and stuff like that. They're afraid of us, men. And it's saddening, but everything's understandable. It's in a rightful place. I could totally see why they would fear us. And it's just very sad that, it's not all men, which I hope that women understand, because a lot of times they make these overgeneralizations, and then they kind of make it seem like they don't have faith in like any men. But it's just very sad that like the rotten apples can ruin the whole tree. So for the rest of this video, I'm just going to be addressing a few more issues. I'm going to bring up a few more stories to kind of like paint the picture better for us to be able to follow and to be able to see how much of a problem this is. And then hopefully in seeing this, we're able to also like consider more deeply some things that we could do better in the future, or now knowing or becoming aware of these certain situations. It's like, okay, how can we avoid certain things? And I'm even going to be vulnerable with some of the things that I've done in the past, because once again, even though I'm in front of a camera and I'm saying all of this, I'm not here sitting on a high horse like, this is crazy, this is bad, like you guys should all be perfect like me. Like that's definitely not the case. I've done my trash too, and I own up to it. I think that's the biggest thing, to be able to own up to your flaws and then learn from them, so that you can learn how to better operate in our society to keep these things from happening. One story is when I was in 4th grade, I had my first girlfriend, if you would even count it as a girlfriend. I was so naive back then that it was to the point where this girl, she asked me out. Well, she said that she was trying to get me to ask her out, and I was like, oh, well, I don't have a car or anything. Like, I thought she was literally trying to get me to, like, take her out on a date and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, we're a little bit young for that, don't you think? And then she's like, no, silly. Like, I'm talking about, you, like, we're just boyfriend, girlfriend. I'm like, oh, okay, sure, we can do that. Well, that didn't really last that long. And I guess because I had too much respect for her. And you'd think that that's not a thing. Tupac actually spoke about this at one point, but I had too much respect for her that it pretty much, like, it seemed more like we were just best friends rather than boyfriend, girlfriend, I guess, which was a problem for her because she ended up leaving me for this other guy. He was cooler, and I still remember both these people. I still actually I have both of them on Facebook. And I was still in this state where I was thinking to myself, like, man, what do you see in him, and what do you like more about him than me? And we were all in line, after recess one day, and I don't even remember the context of this situation, but the guy, he was just clowning around with his with the other cool guys, in our grade and stuff, and they were jesting sexually. And then he was like, nah, yo, it's more like this. And he grabs my ex at the time, bends her over, and he starts humping her from behind, like, ma. And I was like, like, I literally thought that he was about to get slapped. I was thinking, like, oh my goodness, like, that was so disrespectful. But the way that she responded befuddled me. Like, it so heavily surprised me. She turned around and she's like smiling and she's like laughing at him and all of that. And I was like, my FE. I'm like, she liked that. And I was really confused at the time, but that was just something that I would have never done, especially because if we're thinking about things such as like sexual battery and everything, I never knew anything about like battery and stuff like that. But apparently, a sexual battery, for those of you who don't know, is if you touch a woman, for example, and we're gonna get even more into this, with the other stories. But if you touch a woman or a man, and they didn't tell you that they didn't give you explicit permission to do that, they could sue you for that. They could literally take you to court for that. And if you do it in a sexual way, oh yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter if that's your significant other or not. So if she wanted to take him to court for that my thing, she could have actually done that. That's scary, but it's like, when you really put that into perspective, it's like, wow, like you need a license or a yes, for everything. That whole saying where it's like no really means yes. Don't trust that. No means no. And if they don't even say no, you have to get a yes. And they get into that as well with the Justin Baldoni videos, and the Me Too movement, because now you have stuff such as like a girl who's drunk and everything. It's like, okay, well, she's not really like saying no, but is she saying yes? And even then, should you trust her yes? So that's one story to put onto the platter for you. So another story is actually, like, as you guys who've been watching my Enneagram Journey videos, I have been continuously trying to fit into a group ever since I was younger. I always just wanted to be part of a community. I looked at the cool kids and I was like, hey, I just want to be like you guys. I just want to be included. I just want to be, I don't want to be like superior or anything. I just want to be included. That was it. So back in 7th grade, there was this whole epidemic of, I saw and noticed that the guys of higher social status were going around and slapping girls' butts just randomly. And to me, once again, being a naive guy, I even years later, I still thought so many things to be disrespectful to a woman, And so when they were going around slapping these girls' butts and stuff, I would like gasp until once again, like the last story I told, they liked it. It registered in my head like, they're not even offended by this. Like they want more of it. And somehow this is getting the guy more status. Well, since I'm a pleaser, and because I did also simultaneously want status, and I saw this as like, okay, well, the woman liked this, so it must be consensual or, permitted, whatever, having no idea of how big of an issue this is. One day there was this girl, I still have her on Facebook too, and we're cool, by the way, but yeah, there was this girl, she's walking through the hallway, and I saw that the guys were, like around and everything, and I tried to do my ticket to get in, and I slapped her right on the butt. She looks behind at me, sees that I did it, and then she kind of like gives this like flirtatious smirk. I kid you not. However, the assistant principal walks right around the corner at that very moment, catches that I did that, grabs me by the arm really, really tough, and she's like dragging me to the office. Now to keep cool, I'm just like, okay guys, I'll be back. Like, oh, whatever. Like she's like saying something. I didn't really remember what she was saying, but I'm just trying to like focus on like playing cool. But as soon as we get in the office, then I'm shaking. And I remember this, like, oh my goodness, my parents are African. They don't play that, like if they find out about this, I'm gonna get in trouble. Like I'm more afraid of what my parents are gonna do than what you guys are about to do at school. But I should have been afraid about that too, because they were trying to expel me. And I was like, whoa, all I did was slap a girl's butt. She liked it. Sexual assault is a thing. Consent is a thing. And as you can see, I had innocent intentions. I wasn't trying to if I knew that it was as big of a deal back then, I wouldn't have done that. And I wonder, how many other guys, they don't know such things. So that bleeds into our next story. So I have a friend who recently told me that one time, he worked at this, I think it was a church or something, or it was a camp. He worked at some industry where it was like a Christian, place. And he was saying hi to like one of the female friends over there, and he just naturally, grabbed the woman's arm, not like an aggressive way, but like kind of like just touched it, like, oh hey, as he was talking to her. He's like a physical touch kind of guy, and he wasn't doing it in any sexual way whatsoever. This friend of mine got called into the office, and he was being accused of sexual assault, and he said that he was so like befuddled by all of this, like, because technically, yeah, the woman did not technically give him permission to do that. Like, that's how serious assault could get. If the woman did not say, oh Denzel, you can grab my arm, or oh Denzel, you can give me a high five, I don't know, whatever it is, or man, once again, but this usually happens with women. If she did not give you that explicit consent, then she can take you to trial for that. And so, thankfully, this is like a Christian industry, and this woman was apparently like known for like having this kind of like like telling other people things and stuff like that. I don't know, like she had a reputation. We'll just say that. So this friend of mine, like, he didn't get in any type of severe trouble, but like imagine if he did. That his whole life would have been like ruined in a way, because people don't really ask for details when it comes to stuff like that. They'll just see that you went to jail for sexual assault. That's it. You're not getting hired. Like, so this could really inflame and ruin a man's life, a good man's life at that. And now this guy, he said that he knows better. He doesn't do that to women anymore. Like now he just tries to like if they reach out for a hug first, then okay, cool. Like, and even then he doesn't even hug women as much. Now, as I'm saying all of these previous stories, they're like, it kind of seems like I'm in defense for the guys, but what I'm really trying to do is just present both sides. Like I said, I'm not picking a side. I'm just trying to show both perspectives of each side and bring more puzzle pieces to the table for us to be able to look at, more perspectives to be able to consider whenever we're trying to slam somebody into jail, or like just automatically stamp every single man as an evil man who's just out to like sexually harass and sexually assault in some way, shape, or form. But there definitely are some men who are like this, and you can sometimes maybe like think like, oh, they don't know better, kind of like me. I honestly didn't know better at the time, and I know there's probably going to be a lot of people who watch this video like, Denzel, you should have known better. That was rude. You shouldn't have smacked that girl's butt, whatever. But it's true. Like, I'm being sincere. I did not know better. And now I know so much better than to do that. I was so careful ever since that incident to not let something like that happen again. Consent became a very big thing for me. And it was even to the point where, like, I was a freshman in high school. Sophomore in high school. And there was a girl who was sitting in front of me, and there was this guy who was sitting beside me in class, and the girl like kind of like leaned over to I guess pick something up or whatever, and I, once again, I'm not bragging, but I really just try to be a respectful guy. I tried to like look away, and she was an attractive girl, but the guy next to me tapped her butt. And this girl, me and her had a cool relationship. She knew that I was crushing on her, but she saw me. She was an upperclassman, and she saw me as like a very respectful Christian guy in the school and everything. So she called me Prince because she said I'm like an African prince. Anyway, so she turns around and she's like, Prince, did you just slap my butt? And I'm like, okay. And I'm not kidding. I dragged this. I was like, let me tell you all the reasons why I would not do that. Me slapping your butt, if you think this through, that 1 millisecond of me touching your butt is not going to like, it's not like, oh, my hand is going to feel that for the rest of the day and it's going to be magical and it was so worth it. It is not worth the consequences of now you assuming that I slapped your butt, and then whatever relationship that we have has now been altered and changed, and now you're starting to think of me in this way, like, wow, I thought that you were this nice Christian man and everything, but turns out you're a pervert, and you're like this, and you're like that, and then she loses respect for me, and just all of these consequences that go down the line, and now our relationship is shattered, and that was all not worth me just touching your butt for a millisecond. As I'm explaining this, the guy next to me was like, damn, nigga, all right, no, I did it. You know, like, and I kid you not, like, that's what happened, but like, that's the mindset that I adopted for this issue, you know? But once again, so that's me saying, like, you know, like, I really, like, fixated on learning from that experience in 7th grade about consent and about how dangerous this thing could be. But there are some guys who you just can't excuse them from. A friend of mine told me that she was in an Uber one time, and she was drunk. It was around like 2 a.m. And she said that, I kid you not, Denzel, like my Uber driver, he was literally driving and reaching back, and he kept on like touching on me. And she has like protruding breasts and everything, you know? And so like while she's drunk and everything, she's literally like telling him to stop. And the man is not listening. And he's continuing to do that. And then he parked the car in like some type of like abandoned parking lot or something like that. And he starts trying to like make a move on her and like making out with her and stuff. And she's telling him to stop. And he's like, come on, you know you want this. And then she's like, she forced herself out of the car, and she had to call her friend to come and pick her up. I was livid. To me, it really just doesn't register. It doesn't make sense that if a woman is not enjoying this, if a woman is telling you to stop, then you stop. You know, I'm married. And, you know, in the Bible it says like, oh, your body belongs to your wife and your wife's body belongs to you. But at the end of the day, if Jamila tells me that she's not in the mood for anything, she's not in the mood for anything. You know, like, I'm not going to force anything upon her. And even aside from that, I realized that, at least for me, it's not just the body that I want. I want the mind. What I want is the desire behind it. So yes, the action definitely is good. But what I really want is the consent to begin with. What's beautiful to me is the mutual consent and desire that we have for each other. And I don't understand how men could, you know, they're just so bent on getting theirs, you know? And once again, see, I'm doing it myself. Like, you know, it's not all men, but I can't understand the men who do seek some kind of like pleasure from it. Like, I mean, I can understand it from a psychological standpoint, such as like what I said, like, you know, watching Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer and those people, you know, and they talk about how they enjoyed the dominance behind it. But what I'm saying is that I cannot fathom myself, like, you know, desiring the dominance and aggressiveness over the connection and consent. Like that just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't register to me. And I wish that, you know, once again, not that I'm perfect, but I wish that this was more of the case with more men, to be able to identify when consent is not provided, and you can just respect that. In the Justin Baldoni videos, once again, a woman talks about how she was just chilling on the train, and then a man came and sat right next to her. He, excuse my, you know, French here, but like, or explicit language here, but like, he pulled out his penis and he begins to masturbate next to her, and he had no repercussions. The friend that I was just talking about with the Uber, that Uber driver, he never got in trouble. Like, she was never able to call the police or anything. So there are a lot of women who suffer from these types of things, and they're afraid to speak up, or it's so normal for them that they're just like, they don't speak up. And it's very sad. And it makes me so sad. Like, I'm so sorry to all of you women who suffer through this. Even the women who I've you know, done things to, or made feel some type of the way, may have made feel some type of way, and I didn't even know. I'm so sorry for that, and I'm so sorry on the behalf of all of these other men. Like, that's so sad. I'm so sorry that we don't listen to you guys, to you ladies, when you speak and when you voice these opinions. And I hope that that can change soon. I'm so sorry about that. But on the other hand, we also have to remember that there are liars out there, just like the one that I said earlier. Not necessarily she was lying, but she stretched the truth about, my friend just touching her arm. You know this guy is genuine. If you see this guy, you just know that he's a genuine guy. Like, he had no bad intentions whatsoever. And really, like, touching her arm, it's like now we're kind of like losing, like, okay, so what exactly is assault versus what exactly is not assault? What is worth being called to the police and everything versus, where can we actually gauge the person's intentions? Does this all of a sudden make my friend now a bad man? No, he didn't know better. Me slapping that girl's butt, did that make me a bad man? I would like to hope that you guys would say, no, I don't think so. Now that I know better, though, then I would like to avoid that. And is this due to our conditioning? Like, because now in that situation, I was conditioned due to, like, the other guys who probably all picked it up from their parents or something. I don't know. Or guys that they see on TV. Like, all of this conditioning has caused them to go out and just imitate and do the same things, And as we're being conditioned for so long, it becomes hard to break out of these habits because now you just start seeing these things as normal. And that's why we now have like feminists who are, trying to like reverse it. But at the same time, we don't want to go to the total opposite direction where it's like, oh, he touched my shoulder. You need to go to jail. Did I give you permission to touch my shoulder? Come on now. Really? Like, he didn't mean to do it in that way, And so we have to like understand like, okay, where do these things lie? I was watching a video earlier where I thought it was very interesting the way that the guy like was talking about it. Like, it was sent to me from one of my friends as we were discussing this issue, and you guys probably know him, Tucker from Fox. It was a very good debate in my opinion, and I think that you guys should check it out. There's probably like a little white blur thing popping up right now for you guys to be able to go check it out. But just go and check it out when you get the chance. I'm going to tell this last story before I land the plane. So I don't want to go too deep into detail with this story because I feel like I've already taken up a lot of time in this video. I don't know how long it's going to be with all of the editing and everything, but hopefully you guys have been able to follow, and it's not only been entertaining, but it's been helpful to be able to have these conversations. And I'm trying to be vulnerable with you guys, so hopefully I'm not getting a whole bunch of judgmental eyes and everything, especially after this, because I've never publicly told this story. But in essence, let's name this person Jasmine. So my freshman year of college, yes, even after I was a Christian and everything, I knew this girl named Jasmine, and we were cool friends, and I tend to be naive. Like, I tend to have an idea when people like me and everything, but I tend to be in denial. Like, oh, well, maybe they're just really appreciative of the insight that I provide to them, or maybe they're just really friendly, like I am, stuff like that. But Jasmine definitely liked me, and I know this now. This was back when me and Jamila, we were best friends, and everyone knew that I liked Jamila at the point. And everyone knew that Jamila was not interested in me. In fact, this was still back when Jamila was saying, yeah, you're 40% of the man I'd like to spend the rest of my life with. That's below failing, And so everyone knew that I was into Jamila at this point, including Jasmine. But because Jasmine figured that since Jamila didn't want me, then I would be, open to her. So as me and Jasmine continued to interact and everything, then she became a lot more evident with her flirting. Jasmine would do things such as, like, me and my friends were walking to Jasmine's, dormitory or whatever, just the lobby to be able to hang out with the other people who lived there, including Jamila. And Jasmine would like do things like see me from the window, run outside, and then jump on me. And, like hug up on me and everything. And jump on me in a way that made my friends be like, and it's like, okay, She was like, if anything, sexually assaulting me. Like, she would touch me like a little bit inappropriately in a way to, I guess, like arouse me. And I was very, resistant towards that. So Jasmine would do things like when she'd see me on my phone, or something, and I wasn't giving her like attention, then she would like, kind of like wrestle with me. And when I say wrestle, I mean there was even positions where like she would like pin me to the floor, and I'm like laying on my back, and she's like sitting here. You know what I mean? And once again, I go to a Christian school, and we're in an open area. We're in the lobby and stuff. I'm not gonna front. Being a male, I was aroused, but I was still very, what's the word? I just used it. Resistant. Yeah, I was very resistant. Like, oh my goodness, like, can we not? I'm trying not to sin. I'm trying not to, lead you on. I'm trying not to, especially look bad in front of these other Christians. Like, I'm being judged right now. Like, and you're doing this so much out in the open. Well, transparent moment. One of these days when she was doing that, I'm not even gonna front, I was in the mood. And I ended up just like being like, you know what? I literally said that out loud, I remember. I'm like, you know what? And I took her comb and I ran to the back hallway, and I didn't even really, I ran to the back hallway knowing that she was gonna follow me. So she's following me, and then she stops right beside me as I'm still holding her comb. She's not even trying to reach for it anymore. But I'm trying to open this door into a conference room in the hallway. And as soon as I walked in, then she walks in right after me, and she closes the door behind her. And then I'm looking at her, and I'm like, so you know why I led you here, right? And she starts giggling, and then immediately I kid you not, I'm not even exaggerating, this only lasted at max 3 minutes. Max. Like, maximum 3 minutes. She started, like, hugging me and then, like, kissing on my neck and stuff like that. I try to reciprocate the energy, but if we're being honest, I'm like, she has a lot of perfume over here, so kiss on her neck, no. And she was very short, and so, I'm kind of just, like, holding her by her butt and everything. And I kid you not, she said something like, this is only going to make me like you even more, right? And I was like, okay, I'm sorry, we have to stop. And I pretty much got us to sit down in the conference room side by side next to each other. And I'm telling her, like, hey, I'm really sorry, we shouldn't have done this. Because if we're being honest, I wasn't even enjoying it. It's kind of like having a cookie that you've been wanting so bad and like flaunting before you, and then finally now when you're going against the rules and you're eating the cookie, then it's like, it doesn't taste as good as I thought that it did. No offense to her, but it just didn't taste as good, And so now I didn't even finish the cookie. I only took like 1 or 2 bites, and I'm like, no, never mind. I want to put it back in the jar. And it's like, dang, I could have went the rest of my life without, having that cookie. But it was too late, unfortunately. So we're sitting down, and I'm explaining to her that we shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry, and I can't afford for her to like me more. You know that I like Jamila. She's like, yeah, I know. Well, in order to be able to get over you, I'm gonna have to just distance myself from you. And I'm like, oh man, like seriously, like we can't just continue to be like just normal friends, like without all the extra stuff, like. And she's like, no, I'm gonna have to distance myself from you. I'm really sorry about that. I was like, okay, well, as long as we're still cool, right? So like, it's not gonna be like awkward between us or like some type of tension. She was like, no. So I gave her a hug and everything. We're cool. Even the next morning when I saw her on the bus and everything, then she dropped off a note in my pocket talking about, I think the note said something like, love you, Denzel, and I took it again as like a platonic manner. Once again, it sounds like I'm telling all the details of the story, but I'm really not, because it's what happened afterwards throughout this whole situation that was like, and it's actually what brought me and Jamila closer together, if we're being honest. So, me looking at the bright side. But long story short, she, within the next week or two, she took it to the dean, like the conduct office, and she told them that I sexually assaulted her. And I even forgot about the whole situation because I felt so guilty about it. I went back home and I prayed, God, I'm so sorry, I repent. I like repented from that, and I'm trying to like move on with life. And I'm just thinking like, oh, like me and her cool. She just left this note in my pocket, all of that. Everything's cool. Nope. She filed it as sexual assault. And I was like, whoa, no. And I told them the whole story. And at my school, you're not allowed to do anything sexual at all. And so there's that. So I'm already afraid because now I'm going to get in trouble. Like, even though it was consensual from what I'm telling them, I'm still going to get in trouble for doing anything sexual to begin with. And that could result in expulsion from the school, stuff like that. Whew. This was dragged even to the police. And I was taking a trial for it, and it was crazy. I was arrested. It was so many different things. I was detained. It was just a whole different issue. And we found out that it was because she had told one of my roommates. She told one of my roommates or something, like it was mainly because she was jealous because during that time me and Jamila started to spend more time together, and she was jealous of Jamila. And she also heard from these prophets who were speaking to her like, oh, Denzel is doing this to 30 other women. And, God is telling me that you need to stop this man and stuff like that. What? Where are you getting this from? Oh my goodness. Like, I don't know what kind of spirit was talking to you, but that was not God, because before God's face, I can say that I wasn't doing anything like that. That was a very hard time for me. It was an extremely hard time for me. And to this day, things ended up being resolved, as in thankfully I wasn't detained, but I had to take up this deal because I was charged for 4 different things. 3 for sexual battery, which once again, it's this is where I learned that, oh, well, did she tell you that you can touch her butt? I was like, no, not explicitly. She didn't say, hey, Denzel, you can touch my butt. But I didn't tell her that she could touch on me either, but, I'm not the one who's suing, so I guess. But the police officer was like, I didn't know anything about court and all that back then. I should have waited to get a lawyer. I know, whatever. But I just thought, being honest about what actually happened and showing, no, but this all was consensual. I don't know. Anyway, it ended up being where I got 4 charges, 3 of sexual battery, and then 1 of public masturbation. Where did that come from? I do not know. And they said they were going to drop the public masturbation and the sexual batteries if I at least accepted 1. And then instead of going to jail and having to fight all 4 of the cases, if I accepted or pleaded guilty to 1 of those batteries, it would stick on my record as a sexual misdemeanor. But then I would have evaded the possibility of losing in a place called Lynchburg as a black man. And we don't know what type of stuff that she was conjuring, because she had other people even claiming, she had one person who literally claimed that I sexually assaulted her as well. And I was like, I don't believe this. And later this same woman revoked her statement and put in a good statement about me actually. And you would have thought that that would have got me off the hook, but it's there are literally wicked women out here, who are making these false allegations for no reason. And in that video that I was talking about with Tucker and everything, he tells a story like this too. And so it's kind of dang, why is it so hard in this world to be able to believe certain things? Well, why do we fabricate certain things? Why do we use such hyperbole? Why do we allow our feelings to just make us do impulsive things? And this woman was really trying to put me to jail. And she really tried to ruin my life. I still have that misdemeanor on my record. And once again, it's weird. I've never talked about this publicly, but that people could see that, employers could see that, and they won't ask questions. They could see me be all dressed up and, oh, well, you seem like a very nice gentleman. Oh, well, so did Ted Bundy. Come on. So all of this to say, I think that the things that I want us to take away from this is that women should not be our prey. Look for consent. Not just consent as in oh, she said no. She's not saying no. Look for, did she say yes? Is she in the right mind to be able to even say yes? Also, I want us to recognize that there's a reason why women are afraid to speak out. A lot of women are afraid to speak out about such issues. Right now, as I'm recording this video, there's a video circulating about a girl who's talking about what her mother's boyfriend or something like that was doing to her, and the mother was responding, like, not believing her and everything. I'm still actually yet to, like, actually open up the video and watch it, because every time I'm scrolling through my timeline, then I'm in public, so I'm unable to, like, hear it. But you guys probably know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of stories like this, and it's very sad. And so we need to pay more attention to women, but at the same time, and once again, I'm not trying to insult women, but it's also hard to know which woman to, believe. And it's a really difficult world. It's not that black and white. Like, there's the women who are innocent and who are saying, like, no, this really happened to me, and they need to be heard, because there are people out there who are doing these heinous things to them. But then there's also women out there who, kind of like Jasmine, who they're just jealous, and they're just vindictive, and they're just trying to ruin somebody's life for no reason. And it's crazy, and they're fabricating so many different things, and it's really sad, because this is a serious issue. This could ruin a whole man's life. It almost ruined my friend's life that I was talking to you about. But then there's also men out there who are doing heinous things like they did to my friend who was in the Uber. And then there's also men out there who don't know better, or didn't know better, and now they know better, such as my friend who touched the woman on the shoulder. Like, okay, now I know better to do that. Me, I know better than to slap a girl's butt without, her saying, hey, can you slap my butt? For whatever reason that might be, But what I most want to, like, push is that I want us all to take responsibility for our own actions. I'm a humongous advocate for doing all that you can, as in, like, you as the individual. I see a lot of days, like, a lot of people, like, they're saying stuff like, well, it's not my responsibility for how you're feeling. It's not my responsibility for this. It's not my that's not my responsibility. And they're right. It's not. But I think that if we all tried to over-accommodate, and I'm not saying that I'm totally right, this is just my opinion. If we all try to, over-accommodate and just do the best that we can to leave as minimal room for maybe their responsibility, I don't know, depending on your energy to be able to do that, then how much better would the world be? I don't know. Maybe that's me, once again, being idealistic. You guys can feel free to disagree with that. But my whole thing, though, at the end of the day, is that we should take responsibility for our own actions. And kind of like my friend Maya, I was talking to her yesterday, and she's experienced so much, like, sexual assault and everything from her Uber drivers and stuff as well too. Like, it's crazy. Like, y'all be careful with these Uber drivers, for real. But it's not funny. When I was talking to her about it yesterday, and she's actually, like, trying to FaceTime me right now, so hopping off soon. But when we were talking about this and everything, she said, at the end of the day, all women want is an apology. And I was thinking to myself, really? It's that easy? Just apologize? Like a sincere apology? Oh, well, duh. Then I thought about it, and we continued to talk. I was like, actually, no, it's not that easy. At least not for the average male. We're so held by our egos. We're so held by not wanting to admit to what we did wrong, or like, you was wearing them booty shorts. What was I supposed to do? And we make all of these excuses. So of course the male, the average male, if you will, that's hard for them. But we have to learn how to own up to that. Stop being like Adam's, like, God, this woman that you put here, and start taking ownership for that. We're still falling victim and trap into the same thing, the same mistake that the very first man, according to the Bible, did. Come on, let's grow up and actually become men. Stop. If she says no, that means no. End of story. If she doesn't want to dance with you, she don't want to dance with you. And women, I would request, I'm requesting that you guys also be a little bit more clear so they don't have any excuse. Once again, it's taking complete responsibility. Like, don't give a man an excuse like, well, she wasn't really clear about what she was saying or whatever. Like, if that's the case, then make sure that he can't say that. No, I was clear. In fact, if you listen to the recording, I specifically said, I do not want you to touch me. I specifically said, I do not want you to do this. Be specific. Let the person know. Because clearly, these guys can't take hints. But I also want y'all to know that not every guy out there is evil. Not every guy out there is like trying to be manipulative and rude and just bothersome in that fashion. And I hope that you guys can understand that for real. I'm really sorry. And as Maya said, I just want to apologize on the behalf of all of these men. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. To every woman out there who's been objectified sexually and who's been harassed, assaulted, who was not believed, who was, seen as prey from a male. I'm so sorry about that. And I just want to take this opportunity to pray for our nation, kind of like I did with the racism video and like what I do with a lot of other videos. Just want to take this opportunity to pray real quick. So if you don't mind, do that. Heavenly Father God, I just come before you right now, and I just want to thank you for allowing my viewers and I to be able to just sit down and talk about this issue. It's a very serious issue, God. And Father, it's so annoying. It's so annoying what women go through. It's so sad that a lot of them look at the world and they're like, man, not just the middle ground where it's like we need more women leaders, but they're even now saying like we don't need any male leaders at all. It's very sad that we've come to that point where now women would be so happy if men had a 9 p.m. curfew. And it's almost like males have this like gender privilege, Father, this is terrible. And I know that you're above and you're seeing all of this, and not all men are horrible. Father, I pray that you give us discernment to be able to know between the good fruit and the bad fruit, both men and women. The women who are falsely accusing certain men and the women who are afraid to speak up or who have spoken up and they're telling the truth. Help us to know who is who. Father, I pray also for the men who have these sick and twisted minds. Help them to understand consent and help them to be able to just act better in society and to behave better. Father, I pray that you'll help us to just all as a society just become better and to grow more and to become more of the people who you want for us to become more of the society that you want for us to be. So that we don't have to live in a world where women are afraid. So we don't have to live in a world where men are afraid of being falsely accused by women just for accidentally touching them and not knowing that it could be perceived in a wrong way. And women not being afraid for speaking up when they are touched by a man who had the intent of, disrespecting them in that manner. Allow us to be able to understand and see eye to eye and not be able to allow all the trees with rotten fruit to just be thrown into the fire altogether, but allow us to be able to see the good people, and for the people who are bad or who we deem as bad, may they be able to have a change of heart and to become more understanding. Give us wisdom on how to raise our sons in the future, and just allow us to be able to become better people overall. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for listening to our prayers today. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen. Done.